Hey, I'm J.R. Lay, and welcome back to the Level Up Business Podcast. In today's episode, I am joined by Logan Lyles. Logan is the founder of Demand Shift, and he is helping B2B entrepreneurs book 5 times more sales calls with the webinar Fast Track. Together, Logan and I are going to explore why access to unique wisdom is quickly becoming far more valuable than just access to commoditized knowledge, commoditized information. And we're also going to discuss how webinars bring together 4 areas that I think will fuel future growth. Webinars are bringing together connection. They're bringing together conversations. They're bringing together content, all to facilitate community. So if you've ever questioned the ROI of webinars, truth be told, I have myself. Logan's giving me a new perspective. He's going to give you a new perspective as a B2B entrepreneur when it comes to how webinars can help you level up your business. But first, if you are a visionary B2B entrepreneur who wants to transform your insights and IP into influence and income, I invite you to send me a text right now, 832-240-1922. That's because I want to teach you. I want to show you how you can turn video content just like this into a published book that monetizes your unique wisdom. Now, let's get ready to learn. Let's get ready to grow. Let's get ready to level up with Logan. Logan, it's so good to see you, buddy.
It is good to see you too, man. I love having every conversation you and I have had over the years, and especially the ones lately. And now we get to record it for the benefit of everybody, because we usually swap some good ideas, share some good stories. So I'm happy to do it again, man.
Well, I'm so happy that we have been able to reconnect, and you're on this entrepreneurial journey and leveraging the insights, the experience that you have gained over the years. You're now packaging all of that up and sharing that as a gift to help others elevate, to help others level up, specifically in the B2B world, which a lot of B2B entrepreneurs are listening to this show, watching this show. And something that has been a pain in my side over the years, you have a cure, you have a solution to. It's almost like, why didn't I think about this? And it's that pesky webinar. We love to hate the webinar. We hate to love the webinar. And so before we get too deep into that and unpacking where the opportunities are from your perspective, what is going well for you? Give me some good news to get started with today.
Yeah, so as of the time of this recording, I'm about 5 weeks into full-time entrepreneurship. I would say for the past maybe 2-3 years, I've been kicking it around, taking on some clients, doing some consulting on the side, thinking about it, having conversations with my wife of, hey, should I try and make this a full-time thing? Should I not? And as of recently, I took the plunge. And I'd say, ever since I had the entrepreneurial bug, joining an early stage startup, an agency with my buddy James Carberry back in 2018, it felt like it was about time. And so I would say what's been good is that I have the fruits of building my network and connecting with people and trying to add value by creating content on LinkedIn, especially, has been where my first handful of clients have come from. And even people showing up on sales calls and being like, hey, I can't believe I'm on a call with you. And I'm like, who am I? Like, I'm not, anybody special. I'm not Gary Vee or Alex Hormozy or even like a Dave Gearhart, who's super well known in B2B marketing. But it was just encouraging to me, especially lately, as like LinkedIn organic reach has just been plummeting. And I'm like, man, I've been creating content on here since 2018, that there are people who have been seeing value over time and who reach out. And the old saying is, your network is your net worth. And I'm really seeing that over the last couple of weeks.
Well, you've made investments. You've made real investment of time, energy, attention into other human beings, and not just the algorithm. As you mentioned, reach is down. The algorithm's always going to be changing, but it shows the power of people. And perhaps, I mean, that's even why I'm more excited about what you're doing, because you're working to bring people together to connect, to have conversations. And it's something that I've been thinking about. I'm going to roll this back a little bit. And it's so interesting. I think about you. I think about the collaboration that you did with Chris Dubois recently, who was on the show, and he was just celebrating 1 year. And then we've also had entrepreneurs who have been on the show, 20, 30-year entrepreneurs. And so we're all on a different journey, and it's not about comparison. It's just we're bringing unique gifts to the table to share with others that what you have seen, learned, know is different than what I've seen, learned, and know. And when you bring those two together, you get a new capability. It's almost like a capability multiplier. But come back to something that you said. I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, and this prevents them from hitting the record button, from pressing publish on a post or an article or a newsletter, from showing up and sharing their wisdom on stage or through a webinar. It's, what do I know? I'm not. I'm not Gary V. I don't have. It's the self-limiting belief. It's the lies. It's the doubt we have, and I've dealt with that myself. But what do you think it is? Because I mean, you think back even to the podcasting days.
Yeah. For me, it's been two parts. I think it is the what do I have to say that hasn't been said, right? And I think there's some wisdom in the words of, I think it's Ecclesiastes. If you're of a biblical bent, there is nothing new under the sun, right? And I think that is very much true even today as it was thousands of years ago when that was written. Everything is a little bit of a new take on something that is old, right? We're talking about webinars, we're talking about AI, we're talking about all these things in 2025, but at the end of the day, we're still talking about communication, connecting with people, exchange of value, all of those things that are, far more ancient than you and I. And so kind of putting that into perspective helps with that of, I don't have anything new to say, because you might have something new to say that someone hasn't experienced yet. Your specific experiences might be able to help someone who maybe they just haven't heard that, or they haven't heard from someone who's at your stage. Sometimes, I liked following this creator who's really kind of taken off in the last couple of years. His name's Jay Klaus. And I liked watching his stuff because he wasn't Gary Vee. He wasn't Alex Hermosi. He was a little closer to me as a content creator, but further ahead. And so you never know who is kind of two steps behind you, who might really benefit from what you're doing in your business or the content, the expertise that you can share. So that's number one. For me, number two, and this is personal, it might be different for everyone listening or watching, and that's my own perfectionism. And this is where my buddy Dan Sanchez has always kind of beat into me the mantra. I think it's a Toyota principle in their Kaizen philosophy of always better, never perfect. And I just have to remind myself of that before I hit post, hit record on that video, or whatever the content I'm trying to create to get me started.
You mentioned the Ecclesiastics perspective. There's nothing new under the sun, but you also used a word that is really at the center of our perspective, which is wisdom, unique wisdom. And we come to Proverbs. How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver. And I think this word wisdom, as we move beyond the knowledge economy, I'm predicting that we're moving into the wisdom economy. And there's a difference. And Chris Dubois and I were talking about this well on our previous conversation on the previous episode. So if you haven't listened, go check it out, because we were talking about, like, you have data, you have knowledge, and then you have wisdom. And knowledge / expertise is getting commoditized, because the large language models and search through large language. It's like now but that's not wisdom. Wisdom is, and specifically unique wisdom, the way that we look at this, it's your unique perspective multiplied by your unique methods or your unique process. How you visualize and package up that perspective that comes from your live, learn, shared experience. And so let's dive into that with you and your unique wisdom, your perspective, and your method. But before we do that, what's the problem here that we're talking about today? I mentioned it before. It's been a pain for me. Webinars. I want set some context for those watching or listening, because I think about specifically one time I was doing a webinar. It was a sponsored webinar. This was years ago. Maybe like 5-6 years ago. And we got 1,500 people signed up for this webinar through a partnership that we did with a publication in the industry for the business that I had at the time. And I'm like, this is amazing. So 1,500 people, we had 40% show up, 45% show up. Great engagement. Even during the time, it was about 45 minutes, questions, polls, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't convert a single person. And
Not
I'm like,
one out of 1,500.
not one. And we even had like you mentioned Hormazi, we had that end of the aisle offer, give them an offer so stupid they'd be dumb to say no, simple as they'd be dumb to say no to. But it was just like I gave away everything, and perhaps that's on me. It's like I gave it all away and solved the problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't need me, which is complete. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yep.
But you've been in a very similar situation,
Yeah.
your history too.
Yeah, absolutely. I call them dead end webinars. And we have seen a number of symptoms of the dead end webinar. You've got, audience attrition where maybe you're not even getting that 1,500. I thought you were going to say maybe the other problem I've seen is we spent all this money, all this time, all these resources to promote this webinar, plan it, create great content, great speakers, and we got 15 people registered. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Or what I call the conversion cliff. You get 1,500 people registered. You get a solid show rate. If you're above 40%, like that is nothing to shake a stick at, right? In that 30 to 45% range I've seen, especially for B2B webinars, that's kind of par for the course. If you're getting 50% and above to show up, you're doing something special. Keep it up. And DM me on LinkedIn. Let me know what your secret is. But I call this the conversion cliff, and it's what I was seeing. I as we talked about earlier, from 2018 to 2022, I was part of a B2B podcast production agency, which is why some people look at me now and they're like, Logan, why are you talking about webinars? Like you were kind of selling against webinars. That's the old way to do it. And I agree with what you said at the open. We kind of love to hate them and hate to love them. They're kind of a tried and true lead generation practice for B2B. And after my time with Sweetfish, where I was really focused on podcasting, I was the host of a webinar and a podcast by the name of Agency Life for a SaaS company called Teamwork. And we're seeing all the great things that you saw. We were doing monthly webinars, so we're seeing kind of repeat attendees, growing attendance, engagement in the chat. People were LinkedIn DMing me. This is such great content. Thank you so much. And over those 2 years, I think that we booked 12 sales calls and maybe had one closed deal that was directly attributable to the webinar program. And I looked at that and I was like, maybe there's some other things that, weren't directly attributable, that you were building brand, all those sorts of things. But I looked at that and had to say, this really didn't meet my expectations for the results that I was trying to drive. And so in my last role before founding Demand Shift and developing what I call the webinar fast track framework that now I deliver as a service done for you for clients, end-to-end webinar promotion, production, and repurposing, I was running some webinars and I was like, how can I address this conversion cliff? And to me, a big part of the problem is that we're all kind of running the same playbook and it's getting us all to the same point, which is that dead end we were talking about earlier. And as I've heard Noah Kagan saying several times, sometimes you got to zig when everybody else zags. And I had heard of a few people with different lead magnets creating this two-step sign-up flow upon registration. And I was like, this is interesting. And I'll explain kind of what it is. But I was like, I think I can apply that to webinars. And essentially what I started doing was when people would sign up for a webinar, I'd keep the form super simple to increase my conversion rates, just name and email, right? But the moment that they would sign up, we would use a URL redirect to put them onto basically a lead qualification survey so that we could ask them a few more questions. What size company are you at? What growth stage are you? At the time I was selling for an agency that built websites. When was the last time you updated your website? How happy are you with it? What's your biggest marketing challenge, right? This can look different depending on your context. But the magic of it was it ended with a question of, hey, would you like to book a call with a team that specializes in solving X problem, right? It's all about the problem, as I'm sure you talked about with Chris. And my conversion rate from webinar registrant to booked sales call went from 1% to 2% to 9 to 10%. And I was like,
Before somebody even showed up.
yeah, and I started getting book sales calls happening and even being held before the webinar even happened. One story I love to tell is I was on a podcast and I mentioned, hey, we have this webinar that we just did. It's already been live, but it's available on demand now. Well, one of the listeners of the podcast went to that landing page that we put in the show notes, converted, went through this 2-step sign up flow, booked a call, and I closed a deal within 12 days of that. I know because I could see the analytics, they never even watched the webinar. And so it's not that I was bait and switching people, but oftentimes, 60% isn't showing up to the webinar. Even if you have that stupid good offer, they're not even seeing it. And even if you do good follow-up, they're usually ignoring that because, again, the zig when everybody else zags, everybody's kind of doing that. They're putting that call to action at the end of the webinar and they're doing the email sequence. So I moved that to the sign-up flow, and that had a 5 to 10x increase in my conversion rate.
So, I mean, these are the small little optimizations that come from your unique wisdom, i.e. your unique perspective, and you've built a unique method around this. Now, I want to roll back. You mentioned the webinar dead end. Mm-hmm. Why are webinars not dead? You mentioned before, and I mentioned it's like you love to hate them and you hate to love them. It's like there's this, and perhaps it's like how has the quote the webinar quote unquote how has that transformed over the years, and perhaps where might it be going as we can? I mean, it made a lot of sense, 2020, 2021,
Yep.
but then I think we reached this like webinar fatigue stage. Although I do see there's still value there to bring people together for a common purpose to solve a common problem, and then provide them a path forward beyond that pain to get to a bigger future. But why is it not dead, and how has it changed, and where do you see webinars going in the perhaps the next 12 to 18, 24 months?
Yeah. I love this question because there's several things. I don't think there's one answer, but there's a number of things that kind of add up to kind of the new way to do webinars that I've seen be more effective. One, a webinar doesn't have to mean a single speaker with a boring slide deck with too much text on it.
Yawn.
Right. I've been running a lot of webinars that feel more like a live podcast. And I started doing that just because I like podcasting, I like hosting, I like interviewing, much like you. And I was like,
Well, you're a great
why can't we do
facilitator.
that? Right.
And you're on the flip side of the mic, but listening to you before and tuning into the podcast that you've hosted in the past, you're a great facilitator. And I think you're right. I love the reframe. A webinar becomes more like a live podcast. So
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to give
No,
you
that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because sometimes when I'm a guest on a podcast, I get more nervous than when I'm on the mic. And at this point, I've hosted 700 to 800 podcast episodes or live events or webinars at this point. And so I've got a lot more reps on the host side than the guest side. So I think the format is one thing. I think another small thing I've been tweaking is, especially B2B webinars, the promo graphics, what do they always look like? You got a tiny little speaker head and you got their name and their company and you got the title and maybe some subtext and the date and where it's going to be and the time zone and the duration. Nobody needs to see all that. That is not scroll stopping at all. So for my clients, our team's been designing YouTube style thumbnails to be the webinar graphic. I'm like, well, one, this is probably going to work better for promo on social, on email. We can run ads with them and convert better. And oh, by the way, what do most people do with repurposing their webinars, if anything? They put the raw recording of the hour and 2 minutes up on YouTube. And one, it doesn't have a good thumbnail. It doesn't have a good title or description. And it's also not optimized for YouTube. Why can't I take that hour-long thing, put that into a custom GPT that helps me write a YouTube-style script and record that and put in splices of the best nuggets from the webinar with my voiceover of more like a talking head YouTube video. And guess what? Now I've already got a YouTube-style optimized thumbnail to go with it. So those are a few of the things that I've tweaked and that I'm seeing some better results with webinars. But I just remembered there was another question you asked me, JR, was Why are they not dead? Why, where are people engaging versus not? I've heard this, it's kind of the LinkedIn trend right now to say SEO is dead, podcasts are dead, webinars are dead, everything is dead. And in my mind, like, things being dead is the only thing that's actually dead, because it's about how we do them, right?
Right.
And the reason I think webinars, I just saw a study from Goldcast where they analyzed thousands of webinars, and they're seeing companies do more of them, see higher attendance rates, see higher conversion rates. When people were saying 5 years ago that, hey, this is the height of webinars and it's going down from here. And I think it ties into something you said earlier, that even expertise, the digital course, the digital products that package up your expertise, I think those are going to go down in value. We've already started to see it because it's being commoditized, right? People are going to pay less and less for content. What they will pay more for is access. And with a live webinar, you're sharing your expertise, and hopefully you're packaging that in your unique frameworks and methodology to increase the value of that. But you also get the, hey, if you show up live, you're going to get to ask your question of this expert, and these are their skins on the wall. These are their proof points of why they're the expert to listen to. And so I think people are a little hungry for that. They can show up and know that the speaker is not AI. They can actually answer their question, that ChatGPT doesn't quite get the context to drill into their situation and make a very specific recommendation. It's why people still call into radio shows. People are calling into Dave Ramsey and John Deloney still today, and you would think the call-in radio show was dead. And so I think part of it is the value of content going down, the value of access and community going up.
Well, I even take that to the next level, because I think, yes, it's connections. So it's human connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's connections that lead to conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's conversations that lead to content co-creation, as you were explaining here. It's like you've got an hour-long conversation from a different context, like the one that we're having here, and now that can then be repurposed, repackaged, and it's the Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message, and so you're looking at different channel distributions now. But it's like record once, distribute 10x.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get a time multiplier there as well. So you have connections, you have conversations, you have content, but the last is you can't underestimate this. It is the community aspect. It's the and I like the way you framed it. It's access to, not the expertise. You want the expertise, go to an LLM.
Mm-hmm.
You want wisdom, show up to the webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think,
it's a really good point. It's the access to the expert who can give you more contextualized wisdom, but it's also the collective wisdom of the room. And I think folks who are great at facilitating webinars, at building communities. Chris Dubois got a great community. And I think there's a big play between virtual events like webinars and community. It's like, hey, did you enjoy this? Did you enjoy asking questions of not only the presenter, but other people in the chat and finding a nugget of wisdom? Guess what? We got a private community way over here. And there's lots of ways to do that. Free to paid, paid only, free only, whatever your business model, makes sense. But I was actually talking with a guy the other day who runs, he helps establish, launch, and grow circle communities. And I was like, man, there is kind of a back and forth, a symbiotic relationship, I think, between webinar series and community, like building community. And we were kind of geeking out for about an hour.
Courses on the decline, communities on the rise, catch the next wave, and the webinars will be part of that surfboard to ride into the community, because it could be the teaser into the community itself.
That's how I see it playing out a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. So as we start to wrap up here, Logan, I'm so grateful to just reconnect and keep in touch over all of these years since we first met. It's been at least 5 years, and then just your own continued growth as a human being, now as an entrepreneur who is sharing their unique wisdom to help other B2B entrepreneurs level up and grow their business. For someone watching or listening, as we've been talking about webinars today, what's the one thing that you would recommend they do next? And it might not necessarily be the webinar, but to continue to think about their own wisdom, and how they can share that, amplify that to help others. And it might be a webinar, it might be a podcast, it might be just having the courage and the confidence to hit the submit button on sharing something on LinkedIn, but they're like, nah, no one cares.
I would say two things. If you are an entrepreneur of any kind, you're having conversations with clients, with prospects, with partners, all of these folks. The first thing I would say is listen in those conversations. When someone leans in and says, "That's interesting," or "I've never thought about that," or "I've never thought about it that way." Those are three like trigger phrases that should light up your brain to say, "Hey, I should share that." Even just real quickly on LinkedIn. "Hey, I was just having a conversation with another entrepreneur and he found this interesting." And then share what you shared, right? So those triggers sometimes we don't even recognize, but if you have your eyes open, you will start to see them. Your ears open, you'll hear them. So that's the first one. So think about that. The second one is, especially if you're a B2B entrepreneur, LinkedIn is probably the place where you're spending a lot of your time. You might be publishing content now, you might not. Either way, if you have started to grow your network, build a list of your first degree connections, start messaging them and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a webinar series or starting a podcast or just publishing more here on LinkedIn, and I'm looking for topic ideas from people in my network like you. What's one thing that you think would be interesting or helpful that I could cover in this series or my next post or whatever?" And you'll be surprised at how many content ideas you'll get and how many connections that you will kind of re-spark, or start a new connection with someone that was just kind of a random LinkedIn connection before that you never know where it's going to go. So I think those are two things that you could do between now and the end of the week.
There you go. And it comes back to something that I wrote about in my second book, Banking on Change, the need to go all in on people in the age of AI. People are longing for connection. People are longing for conversations. I was facilitating a workshop about a week ago, and I was talking about rhetoric. And this was a marketing team, about 10 people, and the need for discussion, dialogue, discourse. It's part of the human experience. And so their VP of marketing went home over the weekend, thought about it, and then on Monday he was like, "I'm doing a Reconnection tour." He made a post about this, and he's got like 70 people. He texted me, he said, "Man, you have blown up my calendar." I said, "No, you blew up your own calendar by just putting it out there that people want to connect and just have the conversation." And so back to your point, it comes back to just going all in, asking good questions, listening to listen, and then just learning and taking action based upon what people are sharing with you. And so thank you for sharing your wisdom, Logan. If someone wants to continue the conversation that we've started here today, what is the best way for them to reach out, connect, and say hello to you?
Absolutely. So if you're interested in our webinar as a service, our webinar fast track done for you, check out demandshift.co. Very easy to find some time on my calendar, book a call there. Aside from that, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard me on the show here. Logan Lyles, Lyles. Very easy to find me there. And if you connect with me there, I am running a survey for folks who have tried B2B webinars or have run them or are running them and not seeing good results. I can get you early access to a survey that we're running so that you can benchmark your webinar's performance against your peers. We've got over 150 people that have already responded. It's going to turn into an industry report. You can get early access to the data and see, hey, I'm driving 15 or 1,500. How does that compare to other people in my space? So hit me up on LinkedIn. I can get you access to the survey, and we can just be LinkedIn friends as well.
Connect with Logan. Do the survey. You're going to learn something from it. And thanks for joining me again for another great conversation, Logan. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks again for tuning in to learn, to grow, to level up together with Logan's unique wisdom. If you are a visionary B2B entrepreneur who wants to transform your insights, transform your IP into influence and income, send me a text right now, 832-240-1922. because I want to teach you, I want to show you how you can turn video content just like this into a book that monetizes your unique wisdom.